Hey everyone, it's Jack. It's been a while since I've done one of these casual ranking videos, and the topic that I have today, I think it's a really good one for this, because I can't really do like a commentary sit-down video on it. Today we're talking about the Drag Race fights, which I think is much easier to see if you could just see them all on the screen in the tier list, and it's just a fun casual topic that I could talk about that's not too serious. Thanks so much for all the recent support and love. 2025 was an incredible year, and I appreciate all of you for sticking around for so much of it. Like and subscribe, and let's hop into the list. And here we have the list. As always, I will talk about each of the images as they come across, but we'll go over the tiers really quick. At the bottom, I added a currently talking about tab. I do this on my Patreon now just in case someone wants to skip through the video to find a certain fight. Sometimes I'll forget, but most of the time I'll put an image of what I'm currently talking about just to make it easier for people to skip around if they really want to. And for the actual tiers, what does that have to do with anything? That's a reference to the Evie versus Silky fight where Silky does the tearaway and doesn't really have any context for why she did it outside of just kind of wanting to do it. These are the fights that are super petty and they just don't have a lot of content to them. It's not something that I really like talking about, I guess. No resolution. Maybe the fight starts off really good, but it kind of just peters off into nothing. I wouldn't scroll away. If it were to come up on TikTok or like Twitter or something, I would definitely watch the fight, but it's not nearly as iconic as some of the other ones. So juicy. Now we're really getting up there. It's a really good fight, just not one of the absolute top tier, but maybe there's a quote or two in there that's really quotable. And finally, must-see TV or award-winning. I mean, there are some untucked fights that have won awards for the show. Or if someone's just trying to get into the show, maybe I'll show them a fight if they're really into that side of reality TV. So now that we know the tiers and I decided to actually turn my lights on, let's hop in with a classic fight, Mystique versus Morgan. Morgan versus Mystique is one of the biggest fights from the early seasons of the show, kind of the biggest first one outside of maybe Tammy versus RuPaul in season 1. Tammy versus RuPaul I don't believe is on this list, I can't remember, so this might be the oldest fight that we have, and I think this fight was like a sign for what was going to come on the rest of season 2 because those queens fought a lot. I really do enjoy this one because it was in like the holding room area, it wasn't on the untucked set, like it was very clear they had to very quickly turn their cameras on to try and catch the fight because it was just breaking out in an area that they didn't really expect the queens to have the conversation. Bitch, I'm from Chicago is the most quotable moment of this. I think everyone knows that even if they don't really know where it's from.
I am from Chicago!
And I think it is a classic fight, but not a top tier one, but I would never really scroll away if it came on because it is just such a classic. So we'll put it up and I wouldn't scroll away. Next we have one of a couple Coco versus Alyssa fights. I didn't want to include all of them because they all kind of had the same point. So I went with the biggest one with the most quotes and then the one that involved Jade as well. This first one is girl look how orange you look.
Girl, look how orange you fucking look, girl. You were used to being my runner-up.
And this one has always struck me as edited super weird because there was such a heel turn in the room from them kind of kikiing to Coco being extremely mad at Alyssa, which could have just kind of actually happened, but I think editing did play a role in it. I did a full video on Alyssa versus Coco a couple years ago, but I really like where this fight is placed in the season because it shows that they're kind of warming up to each other, but there's still some tension there. They were enjoying each other in the beginning of the segment, but by the end, they were at each other's throats again. Another very quotable one, and I think one that I will put up in So Juicy because though it isn't everything of all of their fights, it encapsulates enough for me to want to put it up in So Juicy. I couldn't find the best image of this one, but it's Roxy versus Jinx, basically over the course of the entire Sugar Ball episode. Roxy was definitely feeling some type of way with Jinx getting that far. She just didn't really like her in that moment, and she knew that Jinx was probably gonna win, or at least she was doing super well, and Roxy was annoyed about that. So she was making more and more jabs as the season went on, up until this episode where Jinx was prompted by the producers to ask the question.
So what has been your favorite moment throughout this competition?
Seeing you in the bottom two.
And then Roxy responds, seeing you in the bottom two. It's another very quotable moment. Aside from that and Jinx trying to defend herself and like the added moments in the untucked Sugar Ball, there wasn't really that much resolution on this one. Roxy remained kind of mad at her up until they got off of the show and then they made amends, and you know, that's such water under the bridge at this point. So it was more so jabs and a little defense, but nothing crazy, but I did want to include it here, but I am just going to put it in no resolution. This photo is Pheromone versus Valentina, but it's more so Valentina versus everyone in the season 9 finale. I'll say right now, this is like must-see TV. It is the best reunion that they've done because it reveals so much about the season that we didn't really get to see on the initial filming. A lot of people were really upset at Valentina, especially post-show, because she wasn't really handling her fans as well as she could. And so it was like everyone airing out their grievances with how she was handling things and how like she only won the Miss Congeniality because it was like a fan voted thing at that point. So it was more so a fan favorite award because no one really thought she was congenial. Valentina wasn't really recepting it in the way that I think they wanted her to, and it was just like a complete mess. And I don't think anyone really expected that going in, especially with how Valentina went out. For her to have like a really, really low moment on the show, and the people to also be like, actually, we're not really going to comfort you because, you know, you did X, Y, and Z. And there are so many moments here that are still quoted, like, you don't love me. Do I look upset to you? Give it up for fan favorite.
No, you're the one that's upset. I'm not upset.
Do I look upset to you?
I respect you and love you.
You don't love me.
Fan favorite! Fan favorite!
It's really endlessly entertaining, and I think they should have won an award for this, like an Emmy for unscripted or something, because this was just that good. So it is going up in must-see TV. Just for a little clarity, I did this list maybe like 7 months ago and then just never really got around to filming it, but we have Anya versus Jules with the trim gate of it all. I don't even know if a lot of people remember this one because it was kind of nothing. Basically, Anya stole Jules's trim that she was going to use on her dress. They were in the same like color category, but they weren't like on a team together. And Anya took the trim because Jules was taking way too long and Anya was looking out for herself. Jules got upset about that and Jules ended up safe while Anya was in the top for this. I kind of think that they put Anya in the top to maybe even force a little more frustration with Jules or like anyone else that kind of felt some type of way about Anya stealing the the trim. The fight itself though was a little bit forced, with Jules kind of prompting Arietti to ask her about the trim, and then she was like talking pretty loudly about it, almost like directly facing Anya, who was sitting not that far from her. Anya of course responds and says, you know, I'm looking out for me. Jules responds, they go back and forth, and then it just doesn't really amount to anything crazy. It just shows that there's a little bit of tension that has payoff later in the season, but they don't ever really mention the trim again. So for that reason, I am going to put it in the bottom category. Just it's an okay fight. Jules has like that one-liner right at the end, but compared to everything else on the list, there's definitely better ones. You know who I'm trying to fight though? These data brokers trying to get our information. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is constantly flooded with spam, there are these companies called data brokers whose entire business is to buy and sell your information. They do it without your consent, and they make billions selling your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. Technically, by law, they are required to remove your information if you ask, but they make the process extremely hard on purpose. So most of the time, people just give up on it. That's why, once again, I recommend today's video sponsor, Aura. Aura handles the hard part for you by automatically removing your data from these sites and keeping it off the sites. Like I've said before, you might already have some security tools, but if you don't have Aura, it's like locking your front door but leaving your back door wide open. Aura alerts you if your personal info is on the dark web, provides real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, and offers 24/7 identity monitoring. It also includes things like an antivirus software, a secure VPN, a password manager, and much more, all backed by US-based support that's working around the clock. And if the worst does happen, Aura includes up to $5 million in identity theft insurance with fraud experts ready to help 24/7. Try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/JackFed. In just 2 weeks, you'll see where your data is being exposed and sold. Thanks to Aura. Now let's get back to the video. Because we're fighting. Okay. Up next, we have the Alyssa, Coco, Jade fight from the Snatch Game episode of season 5. This is one of the best fights of the show, not because it's super intense, but just because it is so silly and stupid. To have these three go back alone when they were called safe for Snatch Game, Alyssa only safe because of the immunity, otherwise she would have been in the bottom. They were just priming everyone for the most tension possible. And even though Alyssa had probably the worst performance in Snatch Game that episode, she's still poking and prodding at Coco, asking if she was okay being safe when she did Janet, and she does Janet like 6 nights a week. Basically just being messy and trying to instigate, but you know, there's someone else in the scene that gets her instead. It's a 2-on-1 fight, but Alyssa really holds her own, having one of the most iconic quotes, "Why you being cute?" aka "Why you being cute?" She also talks about her wig being $450 while Jade's is $35.
This is $450. That is $35. Why you being cute?
It's just a whole bunch of nonsense, but Jade kind of gets the last laugh with the back rolls line.
Girl, if I was going to
judge
judge
you on
anyone,
your
I'd judge you on that body where the shoulders should match them hips, but they
can say all
don't, so.
Get her, Jade.
Girl, you had rolls all over the place in the back. It was disgusting.
Back rolls.
Jinx versus Roxy is the only fight from season 5 that still kind of, you know, it like irks me a little bit. Every other fight from the season is so entertaining and so fun to watch, and this is no exception. It is going at the top tier for sure. Okay, up next we have a personal favorite of mine. I'm gonna count this image as 2. It's more so like Evie versus everyone in this season 11 Untucked. This is like one of my favorite Drag Race things ever. Definitely my favorite Untucked episode, I would say, because there are 3 fights in this episode episode between Evie and Silky, Evie and Vanjie, and then Raja and Plastique. I've explained it before, but of course I'll explain it again. Evie's first fight with Silky is with Silky saying that Evie should have been in the bottom, and also saying that Evie should go home because she's hurt, basically kind of masking her frustrations with Evie. Instead of just saying that, oh, I don't like Evie, that's why she should go home, she was trying to like pretend to be caring, I guess. And Evie took offense to that. They had a fight about that. In this fight, Evie said that Silky should have been in the bottom because she was just wearing stretch fabric with beans covering it. She gets in a lot of one-liners about like the judges not being satisfied. Mediocrity in beans is a huge one. And then the one that I know she really does regret is when someone pointed out that Sasha Velour was safe every week and she won. And then Evie responds, that's because Sasha Velour is talented. That was a little too much.
I'm in this competition not for your satisfaction.
Girl, and apparently not for the judges either.
But I'm just here,
Let's give
just
pats on the back to
being
mediocrity
here.
and beans.
Sasha Velour was safe every week and won.
That's because Sasha Velour was talented.
And Silky's trying to clap back, saying that she's not in this competition for Evie. If they were in the bottom together, she would send Evie home. It was a lot. And then we put a pause on Evie's fighting to cover like the Raja Plastique stuff, but we'll come back to that in this video. And then we come back to Evie with Vanjie, basically saying that Evie also felt some type of way for Vanjie also saying that Evie should go home because Evie fought Vanjie. And this was all primed at the top of the episode with Vanjie talking about how she doesn't like when Evie comes for her. So when Evie comes for her again, just being the brutally honest character that she was on this season, Vanjie was really upset. There is so much screaming that happens here. Vanjie says that like she's not consistent. Evie talks about like not hiding around corners and saying, hey girl.
Hide around the corners and be like, hey girl.
Bitch, I'm not hiding, ho!
And then Vanjie has one of my favorite lines, bitch, I'm not hiding, ho. So good. I think this is one of the most underrated fights from the show. Easily my favorite Untucked episode, like I said. I just watched this with my boyfriend the other day because he didn't remember it, even though I reference it a lot. And yeah, he enjoyed it just as much as I did. So this is also the part where Brooklyn is hiding under the pillows. Oh my God. Everyone in this Untucked had like a role outside of maybe like Nina. So many moving parts, such a mess. Top tier. I want to show everyone this Untucked, even if they don't watch Drag Race, because I think they would really like it. And next we have Ariete versus Anya. Again, another season 17 fight that maybe isn't the biggest now, but at the time I really enjoyed it. So this is during the roast episode where Ariete and Lexi are really upset at Jules because Jules picked the order and then was like, oh, I didn't know that it would upset you guys, because Jules basically gave everyone what they wanted, except Lexi didn't want to be put after Susie, I guess, but she got put in the placement that she wanted. And then Ariete, I guess, like felt some type of way going before Jules, and then Jules would go after because she knows that Ariete isn't strong in comedy. So she thought that Jules was trying to look better because we knew that Ariete was going to flop. Basically, they thought that Jules was playing 3D chess, which may be the case, but you know, that's Jules' prerogative to do. And she still tried to appease everyone in any way that they could. Anyways, Lexi and Ariete come into the Untucked very upset at Jules. Earlier in the episode, Ariete even moved stations because she didn't want to even sit next to Jules. So instead, Jules went over to Anya to sit next to her, and Anya was there to like really understand and comfort her, things like that. So during this moment, Jules is talking more about how she's just upset, but Anya is the one who actually gets into the argument, saying things like, if your roast is funny, you're gonna be funny. If it's not, you're not. Like, the placement shouldn't matter that much and you shouldn't be mad at Jules, which I think is true for the most part. Maybe the first and last position are the only ones that could really be affected, first especially. What Anya is saying is right though. If they made funny jokes, they're gonna be fine, but they didn't make funny jokes. She was just defending Jules, saying that like you shouldn't put all the blame on her for you guys not being funny. And Ariete was upset, saying that, oh, this is only a situation between me, Lexi, and Jules, like you shouldn't be involved. But Anya rightfully said, well, your friend came to sit next to me because, you know, you left her, so now I'm part of it, and I'm always going to speak my piece. I just 100% agree with Anya in this situation. There was a lot of projection on Lexi and Ariete's part, even more projection on Ariete's part because she stole Jules's jokes, which wasn't even brought up in the fight, but like having that added context, it makes it even crazier. I really enjoy it. I always really love talking about the drama on the season because it's so layered, but ultimately people haven't really been talking about it since this episode aired. Like, it's one of the highest rated episodes of Untucked, but still it's not as talked about now. So I'm gonna put it up in So Juicy, but not like must see TV yet. It just plays like a great compliment to the main villains roast episode. We have another fight that, I mean, you can't really talk about Drag Race fights without talking about, and that is the Sharon versus Fifi fight. The tired ass showgirl, go back to Party City where you belong. A fight that was born out of weird circumstances. Like, Like Jeremy never really got along with Sharon. Sharon was annoyed with how Jeremy was doing things and like, you know, trying to typecast her and force her into a role, but then Sharon also won that challenge. When you watch this fight back, it's so petty, and yeah, like it just all stems out of the fact that they don't like each other, and I feel like they were just like trying to find a reason to fight. But nonetheless, it is just a great fight, and yeah, I mean, it's must-see TV. It kind of, this fight and their rivalry like really put Drag Race on the map. And you know, that's great for the show. Unfortunate for who was the hero and who ended up being portrayed as the villain.
Tired ass showgirl.
At least I am a showgirl, bitch. Go back to Party City where you belong.
Another season 4 fight that I really love because, you know, it involves Milan, who I feel like we don't talk about a lot anymore. It's not the most major fight. I don't have a ton of things to talk about. Willem is just, you know, poking the bear as always. She's always there to just like instigate in any way that she can. And Milan is fighting back and has one of the best clapbacks, saying that she's gonna meet Willem on her level, and then gets on the ground. But then Willem has a side comment because Willem is like the master of just side comments.
Okay, let me talk to your level. Did you not do that? Because you're so beneath me at this moment.
Is the carpet comfortable?
I like this one, but it's such a side event to like the Sharon versus Fifi of it all. So I'm gonna put it in I wouldn't scroll away because it's a good fight, but you know, nothing crazy. Jasmine versus Daya at the reunion is a fun one. In a way, I feel like they were just trying to make TV happen. Both of them are such great TV personalities, and I think them going at it, like they were just trying to find anything to fight about. I do understand Jasmine's frustrations with Daya, I'll say. Daya was being shady all season with a bunch of comments, basically saying that Jasmine wasn't on the same level as her, and Daya even got the last laugh by beating Jasmine in a lip sync, and then Jasmine was eliminated in that same episode. So on the season, Jasmine didn't really get a chance to like defend herself and like fight back as much as she thought she could. And Daya was making comments like, you know, Jasmine's an energy vampire, things like that. There's the funny Alyssa moment where she just calls Daya the bitch, which it was brought up a lot on All Stars 10, which it wasn't that big of a moment, guys. Jasmine basically was saying that like Daya didn't ever really try to resolve anything up until like the season was actually airing, so it felt like very fake, I guess. I don't really know their relationship now, but it doesn't seem like this was the hugest deal, but it was a fun fight with like them standing up. I think I'll also put it in I wouldn't scroll away. It's a good fight, but you know, not the best. Another Jasmine Kennedy fight with Maddie Morphosis. This is your moment, have it. I love how much they discussed this on the Give It To Me Straight episode, just basically saying how much of it was a misunderstanding. Maddie talking about how she thought Jasmine was saying she was better because she, you know, performed in New York, and like because Maddie was from Arkansas, she just wasn't on the same level. Kind of ironic with how Daya and Jasmine were getting into it. And Jasmine also misunderstood what Maddie was saying and was just kind of being defensive. Maddie was getting in a lot of little silly comments like, oh, I hope you're the second best lip syncer of the night. And I think Jasmine just really didn't like it in that moment, being in the bottom. She started overplaying what Maddie was saying and saying, you know, this is your moment, have it. It got really messy, and I love that. This was like the start to like 5 or 6 untucks in a row being really good. Like right after this, there was Daytona Wins, which, you know, incredible untucked for a bunch of different reasons. As a full fight though, you know, because everything was based off of a misunderstanding, even though it's very quotable, it doesn't, like, I don't know, it was like Coughing Baby versus Coughing Baby, with both of them being at the bottom, fighting about being in the bottom. Like they both did a bad job in this episode, so I will put it at the bottom tier. We have another Evie versus Silky fight, this one being the bottom tier quote, and you know, it might end up there. Silky was basically uncomfortable with doing the worship challenge, which I understand because she is like a religious person, and having to worship someone who isn't God, that could be uncomfortable for someone who is religious. But the thing is, they were a part of like the top group, like the winning group of the week, and so I don't think Evie really understood why Silky was upset. But at the same time, Silky was like pushing and being like, oh well, like I didn't want to do this. If I had to lip sync, I was ready. And it's like, well girl, you didn't have to. You did a great job regardless, even if you were uncomfortable. So I think Evie could have acknowledged Silky being uncomfortable, while Silky could have also not done the tearaway, I guess.
If I would have lip synced for my motherfucking life today, bitch, I was motherfucking ready.
What does that have to do with anything, bitch?
It was such a silly fight that really just doesn't have anything to do with anything. So it will go at the bottom tier. All right, we had to pause, but it's a new day and we're back, and we have Heidi versus everyone. Kind of Heidi and Aiden versus everyone. So this fight happened because Aiden was doing her ball outfit, and it was just like a corset with black and white balls like stuck to it, and then some little frilly things at the bottom. It did not look great. And then she went with like a referee theme that she didn't even really think of herself. Like someone else basically like gave it it to her. She finished the outfit and then decided to take a nap, and I think that upset a lot of people, the big one being Britta, who just kind of never really got along with Aiden or her style of drag, and Britta was kind of projecting a lot because she was in the bottom, saying that she was working really hard on her outfit, which like she was, but unfortunately it still didn't really turn out that great. So she was upset at Aiden because Aiden didn't put a lot of effort into her outfit and was just sleeping on the couch while Britta was putting in so much time, but like even then her outfit didn't look great, so it was kind of just all a mess. So then Heidi comes in and says, at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter.
At the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter, okay? The bitch is safe.
Which I think is like an alternative title to the bottom category, because it's like, yeah, Aiden was safe. I don't know. There's not much they can do about that because they really liked her other looks. I believe it was her baseball look that they really liked. And yeah, you know, that ended up saving her. And I should mention, all of this happened with them being upset about the ball, not even in the week of the ball. It was actually like the next week. Heidi was mostly upset because they were fighting about things that, you know, didn't matter. Heidi was going to be in the bottom for this lip sync and she had to focus, and everyone in the room was just like complaining about Aiden, I guess. And Heidi wanted to defend her while at the same time just saying like, guys, you know, it's not that big of a deal, let's move on. So while that moment of Heidi is really, really fun to quote and it's very iconic, it's not the biggest fight, and I kind of would put it at the bottom category because they're basically fighting over nothing. Derek versus India is up next, a fight that basically persisted the entire episode 1 of All Stars 5. India was basically saying some bad things about Derek's husband, who ended up taking a job from her after she was either let go or something of that sort. And so she was saying, oh, they basically hire anyone at this club. At some point she called Derek's husband a pig in a wig, and you know, Derek didn't really like that. So she was constantly like making these little comments and like these little jabs, and Derek was just like, I don't know why India is here. It was basically, India was probably cast because of Derek. The main fight happens while they're getting ready for the talent show, and then it's very funny afterwards. India is in the top and gets to basically decide who goes home, and Derek lands in the bottom. So it's a very big switch from you know, the start of the episode to the end, where Derek now has to plead her case to India and be like, hey, don't send me home, sorry I was saying all that about you. Very, very juicy, and unfortunately we didn't really get to see too much outside of that, because Derek does end up going home here, not at the hand of India, actually at the hand of the rest of the queens who voted for her. There was a lot of potential for her to go further on the season, for them to beef, but because that wasn't there, we just got like a entertaining 1 episode stint, but there's no resolution, so we'll put it there.
You called her a pig in a wig.
Coming back to another season 2 fight, this is Tatiana versus Raven at the reunion. Very, very fun one. I really love seeing this one. It's another classic fight with Tatiana basically being like, Raven, you treated me so bad, and like even behind the scenes, like in confessionals, you were saying really nasty things to me. I think the moment that everyone remembers from this one is when Raven tries to cut her off, but then she says, I let you speak, you'll speak when I'm done. And then I'm pretty sure Kylie says, oh, security, or it might have been Nicole. One of the two says that.
I'm not done talking yet. You will speak when I'm done.
Oh, honey.
Girl, security.
It just gets very intense, and I think it was very cathartic for Tatiana to go on and defend herself in that way, because I don't think she really got the best chance on the season to do that, with Raven making all of these comments. And though, you know, Raven was more successful on the season, I think a lot of the comments she made were just, you know, out of dislike of the other queens, because maybe they could do things better that she couldn't do. So Tatiana finally being able to clap back, very fun to see, and I will put it up and I wouldn't scroll away. Plain Jane versus Amanda, one of my least favorite fights from the show, in terms of the fact that there's no resolution, if that spoils where it's gonna be, because Plain is talking and apologizing to Q about not really seeing eye to eye or like getting along, and then she makes a jab at Amanda saying like, well, I at least respect your drag more than Amanda's, and then Amanda snaps and chimes in.
I definitely have more respect for you than I do for Amanda.
Why are you such a... Honestly.
This is like weeks and weeks after Plain is just constantly getting little pokes in at Amanda. It was about time that it was going to pop up, and instead of Plain fighting back, she kind of was just confused and said, wait, so am I like supposed to apologize to you now or back to Q? And Amanda didn't really get anything she wanted. Like, she was just saying, oh, you're always so mean to me and so nasty, like what is the point, what is your deal? And then Plain just kind of says, I don't know. Not my favorite. It starts off so explosive, and I thought it was going to be so crazy, but it wasn't. So I will put it up in no resolution for that reason. All right, we have a couple versus everyone's up next. We have Mimi versus everyone. So this fight happened because her and Alexis had some issues before the show that Alexis brought into the show, and Mimi was mad about Alexis bringing those issues in, because it's like, we're here, like what does that have to do with anything? Obviously they were trying to make good TV and just like kind of say why they had these attitudes towards Mimi because it was such an old school cast and all of the queens were so tight knit that a lot of them had worked with her already, and maybe they just didn't have the best opinion of her. So they were all just like ragging on her and saying like, well, you know, we brought it up and you can't do anything about that. Sorry, like cry about it basically. And in between, there are the Tammy interjections, basically having nothing to do with anything that they're talking about. Tammy more so calling out production for saying, yeah, oh, like play the fight up, keep going, keep acting. So she would say things like, I'm acting. It was a mess. It's cut so horribly, but like in the best way possible. And I really need people to watch this fight because it is one of the best from the show.
Wait a minute, how do you not know what you're signing up for? You already did this, girl. Come on, Teletubby. Teleport us to Mars.
Change your costume, Mimi. Change your costume, change it around.
Guess who came back? The old Mimi.
Well, guess what, Mimi? We did. Mimi, I'm first, was number 3 in the voting. I could not believe it.
Because they need someone to go home first.
And now we have Serena versus everyone, which is another one that it's not exactly a fight. I guess I would call it like a fight. They're comforting Monica for not believing that she has the right to be there because they're also sickening. And then Roxy says, except for Serena.
We're all in the same caliber. Except for Serena.
They all laugh at her, and then Serena tries to defend herself. It doesn't really go well. Serena just looks it's ironic because she says, oh, she reads all these books and goes to school, and she says that she's educated, but she makes a bunch of comments that are very uneducated. She was very clearly 21 in a bubble that I think was burst when she went on the show and met people of all different backgrounds and different like ways that they came up through drag. So she just really does not come off the best here, and unfortunately that's something that's followed her like even now. But just for how iconic and over edited it is, again with like the constant like looping of laughter, it's so good. I really do love this one a lot. So good. Going in the top tier also. So we have the mid-round match of Raja versus Plastique, a fight that I've talked about a lot, so I'll maybe keep it brief. Raja snaps at Plastique because Plastique got like 4 gimmies that week for the challenge. RuPaul went up and hugged her. Alyssa Edwards came in, who was her drag mother. She won the challenge. And the moment that really set everything over the edge is when her boyfriend came on the screen with a video message. And that's something that Raja really wanted at least once that week because she was in the bottom again. Raja didn't see the video happen, but Akira told her that there were some things in the video that didn't really line up with the story that Plastique was telling. Basically saying that her family story with her family not supporting her drag or not knowing that she did it isn't actually true because her boyfriend brings up her family, which I think 2 things can be true. It just depends on how much they actually know about the drag, things like that. But once again, there was a misunderstanding and it kind of led into this bigger fight, with Raja more so projecting her frustrations with production onto Plastique as opposed to actually being really mad at Plastique herself. And Plastique sees how she's actually just projecting and apologizes to Raja, and Brooklyn calls that out as weird. But if you understand where Raja's coming from, it was right for Plastique to comfort her instead of trying to fight back. But with the context that we had at that point, it did look a little crazy. And this fight has one of my favorite moments where Plastique asks her, wait, what's not adding up? And Raja's like, well, I don't really want to get into it. And Suga says, well, you brought it up. Raja turns to her and goes,
What do you mean that is different between the two?
I don't really want to get into it, but what I'm saying is,
Okay.
Well, you brought it up.
is
and then turns back. It's so good. Like I said earlier, this is my favorite episode of Untucked, and I am gonna put this in the top tier. Go rewatch this one. It's so entertaining. Another classic fight. This is not RuPaul's Best Friend race with LaShawn Beyond and the late and great Jiggly Caliente. This is one that I always have to like re-look up what it was about because it doesn't really make a ton of sense, or like it doesn't, you know, register with me like what they were actually fighting about. And even now, like I don't have too much to say about it. It has the iconic RuPaul's Best Friend race line, and they were just kind of mad about how they were doing it in the competition up to that point. So it created one of the most iconic lines, but because like I still struggle to remember anything that it's about, I will put it in the bottom tier, but that doesn't mean that it's not quotable. Like there's quotable moments in all of these bottom tier ones. And we have the famous Shangela and Mimi I'm First Sugar Daddy speech. If you know the behind the scenes of this one and like how they edited it, it is a little bit staged, not like fully. You could see lemons in the background move around from where they initially were. So I do think that the actual fight did happen, but I think maybe they wanted to go back and like redo some parts of it to make sure they got like the best TV possible. This fight happened because they were talking about runways and how, you know, some of the queens can't do the levels of runways that some other queens do. Mimi also can't do glamour and look like a Judy Jetson hooker or something to that nature. And then Mimi claps back saying that Shangela has a sugar daddy that pays for all of her outfits. And then Shangela has the very iconic speech, throws a drink in her face, which I don't know if they're not allowed to do anymore or something. I think this is the only time they've ever actually done it on purpose. I mean, I know it's considered like assault. Legally, it's not a good idea to do, but if the queens are down, it would be entertaining to see, you know what I mean? If you watch it back and how they edit it, it does really go very, very fast. Like it goes from 0 to 100 very fast. And I want to put in So Juicy just to fill that one out a little more, but it's a little too well known and iconic to not put it up at the very top. And next we have the Tatiana and Tyra fight, or Tyra kind of being upset at everyone because they all called her out on the runway saying that she is a complete bitch, or Tatiana said that and then everyone corroborated it. This is a personal favorite one of mine, especially since they also parodied it on season 5. Like with Tatiana at the reunion, this was another one where she held her tongue for the most part up until it was just too much and the floodgates opened and she started to say basically everything that was on her mind that she held back at that point. I love the line, and I don't like you. I don't like you.
And I don't like you. Are you happy? I don't like you. I'm saying it to your face.
It all comes together very well, especially with like the added context of the episode. And I don't think it's a top tier, but I do think it is a very juicy fight. So we'll put it there. Okay, we're getting to a big one here with Candy versus Tamisha. I think it needs to be in the top tier, but I don't really love it personally. The big thing with this is Candy Muse, like I always say, is really good at making good TV and tries to make it wherever she can. Sometimes that doesn't work to her benefit, like with the Heidi situation on All Stars 8. She was trying to more so pick a fight with Heidi and call her out, but Heidi was not ready to receive that and she ended up quitting over it. And I feel like it was the same energy here with Tamisha, where I think Candy was just waiting to get a bone thrown to her, and Tamisha did that, and Candy took that and ran with it. So basically, Tamisha says, "Oh, you guys are all doing great. There's a couple of you that I don't like, but I won't say who." Candy's like, "Well, who? You don't like me probably, right?" And Tamisha's like, "Yeah, I think you're a little arrogant." And from that, Candy's like, oh wow, okay. Takes it, runs with it, saying, "Oh, am I arrogant to you? Am I arrogant to you? If I say something arrogant, call it out." It goes for a long time, and she is mad at Tamisha, and I know for the most part it is real, but I think they also were very proud of the fact that they made this fight together, especially when they won the award for it. It's a fun fight. I don't think you can go with Drag Race fights without this one, but it again isn't my favorite because I think the moment was just like, it was waiting to happen. And you know, I still give claps for Candy for doing that because she knew it would make a great moment and they won awards for it. So amen to them. All right, next we have Alyssa versus Jeremy / Fifi. This was right after Jeremy was saying that Alyssa was getting away with way too much in the competition, and there were all these excuses saying like, "Oh, you can't really do this, but it's funny because you're Alyssa," and all that. Jeremy was saying this right after Alyssa was eliminated, and then Alyssa pops up behind a mirror and basically heard everything that Jeremy was saying and then comes back in to confront her about it. Is the critique that Jeremy said completely true? Yes. Like, Alyssa got away with a lot in the competition because she is Alyssa Edwards and they just love her. Is that fully Alyssa's fault though? Not really. Can she be upset about it? Sort of, I guess. If she wasn't looking for a really iconic moment, I think she could have been like understanding of what Jeremy was saying, just so been like, okay, well, I'll just beat you out in the competition anyways. But she was looking for that moment and she was really pushing at Jeremy, and Jeremy, I think in this moment was also like, "Oh, I'm being played again. Like this is bad." They tried to diffuse this situation by saying, "Oh, you're playing the victim. You can do that. I'm not going to engage," but just didn't work out the best. There was a lot of pushing on Alyssa's side and a lot of, you know, trying to disengage on Jeremy's, but it was tense in the room and so juicy. I still feel bad for Jeremy for everything that happened, but I don't know, like it's too iconic not to put in the top tier. And next we have the Laganja situation, the Laganja versus everyone. This is another very iconic one. They just had back-to-back versus everyone fights with All Stars 1 through season 6. And this Laganja fight came when she was in the bottom and she was really down on herself, and they were really trying to give her some advice, maybe not in the best way, reiterating what the judges were saying about how her personality really seems like she's flipping it on when she's on stage. And Adore doesn't really know her like that. Laganja also had an issue with how Bianca kind of took her moment after her family message. A couple weeks ago, it wasn't in the same episode. They were all coming together with good intentions in a way, even though a lot of them were kind of annoyed with her because she just wasn't getting it. They were kind of giving her advice, while at the same time, I do think they, could have done it in another way where it wasn't all of them surrounding her, but she was just not really receptive to it and didn't understand. She was young, she was unmedicated in terms of not having her marijuana with her, so she was just not in the right mood to really hear what they wanted to say, and she just felt very attacked in the moment, left, and yeah, it did not turn out great. And Courtney has the right mindset afterwards, saying we could have probably handled that better. Still very iconic, and it is going in the top tier.
Well, how am I supposed to feel in this moment?
Ganja, I didn't want to make it that everybody was attacking you.
I feel very attacked.
I don't know if we handled that the best way.
Oh my god, okay. I have watched this fight back recently, and it still makes me so annoyed how people could really ever not be on the Vixen side with this. So this is the Vixen versus Eureka fight where Eureka wants to go and have a cigarette, and instead of just saying I'm gonna leave or not saying anything, she has to make like a moment out of it, basically being like, oh, I'm annoyed at Vixen, so I'm gonna go smoke everyone, instead of just leaving. It's ridiculous.
I'm getting tired of hearing you talk, honestly. Can I go smoke?
The interesting part is in the early episodes, they were like in the same circles, either getting ready together or working together, but just at some point over that time, Vixen just realized that she didn't really like Eureka, whether it would be like Eureka cutting her off or just like talking over her, things like that. So leading up to Eureka making that comment, Vixen was being very short with her and saying things like, well, you need to wait your turn, like we're talking right now. So what Vixen was saying did make Eureka upset, but again, this is after a couple weeks of Vixen just kind of being annoyed and wanting to talk without being interrupted in that way. So Eureka made the comment, and then they had a big fight over it. It just really seemed like Eureka didn't try to understand, or wasn't trying to understand, and was just like only ever seeing her perspective. And I think that was the biggest issue. I think this could have been resolved with just like them talking normally, but it just seemed like every time Eureka was trying to respect and not talk over them, she was making a statement about how she wanted to talk, and she was annoyed that she couldn't talk. And all love to Eureka and everything. I sometimes it just doesn't really seem like she fully grasps how people are upset, and I do feel for her if she does struggle with things like that. But at the same time, making comments like that, knowing that it is going to upset someone, and then not understanding why they're being so upset, it led to such a big snowball effect with everything on this season. So I don't like this one, and it's also just so petty, so I'm gonna put it at the bottom tier. And next we have another Jeremy fight, Jeremy versus Willem. This is the fight right before Willem was disqualified. Jeremy just very upset about Willem still being there and still making all of these comments, and it's another clash of personalities, and especially with the added context of Willem doing things that were against the rules, even though back in season 4 it was kind of the Wild West when it came to rules and everything and like what they could do. Willem still did break a lot of the rules that were set up. Jeremy was very upset about that. It overall was just a very heated Untucked, with the added context of Jeremy also being in the bottom and Willem doing a really good job that episode, and it extended beyond just one of the Untucks in the Gold Lounge all the way to the Silver Lounge, with Willem saying bar queen, something that's always stuck with me. Very messy, very, very heated. It's a lot. But when you pair it with the regular episode, say you watch it like in between the critiques and then Willem getting disqualified, it adds so many layers, and I really do like this one a lot. Jeremy makes great TV, even if it was at the detriment of his whole career. It makes me bummed, but like I wish more people would embrace how awesome he was. And we have another season 17 fight, probably the biggest one from season 17. It is the spray paint gate of it all. What happened here is that Anya Nerve and Arietti accidentally spray painted on Lexi's garment, which just so happened to be a tarp that she left out to dry in the spray painting area. I'm not knocking her for doing that. They were advised to have like spray painting guards, like something to spray paint on to make sure that their outfit doesn't get all over the lot. So when someone leaves a tarp on the ground, a blue tarp, I feel like people could understand that, oh, that's what we need to spray paint on. But I think it was actually things on the walls that were that they were supposed to spray paint on and like hang things up. It's an honest mistake. The issue is that neither one of them told her that that happened. So when she went outside, she saw that her outfit was ruined and then came back in very fiery, very upset, and was basically ready to fight anyone who did it. Rightfully so. Like, she has the right to be upset, even if it was an honest mistake. The bigger issue comes with the fact that she goes outside, sees the outfit is ruined, comes back in, says, who did it? No one did it, because no one came forward. Goes back outside. Arietti is out there and confesses that her and Anya did it. So then she comes back inside mad at Anya because she didn't confess. And in between her going out the second time and coming back in, Anya is saying to the girls like, oh, here's what happened, what should I do? Showing that it wasn't out of malintent for her to spray paint on her outfit, nor was it malintent for her to not come forward. She was just very nervous of how to approach the situation, so she wanted to ask for advice. But by the time that she was ready to really confess, Lexi came back in and was mad at her, saying that, oh, you didn't confess and I know the game you're playing. It was a mess of just really bad timings, but I think it's one of the best moments from season 17 and the newer fights of the newer seasons, which we don't get like that many fights of this level anymore, and I wish we did. So I'm gonna put it at the top tier. It's a really fun one. It has a pretty good resolution. And finally, we have another Valentina fight with Aja. It is the classic, you're perfect, you're beautiful, you look like Linda Evangelista, you're a model. This is a great quotable one. It's not the biggest fight though. It just, again, is one queen projecting her frustrations of being in the bottom on another queen who did well. I don't have too much else to say about it, but because it is so notable and so quotable, I will put it up in so juicy. So here we have the list of the fights. It is not the most serious list that I've ever done, but I do agree with a lot of the top tiers. These are all the main fights of the show that I would want to show people if they wanted to just see a juicy fight. They're intense, they're entertaining, and they're easy to follow. I really do like them. These next ones, maybe this tier isn't the most needed, but I do think that there has to be a tier between like, oh, this is a fine fight, and like, oh, this is the best fight ever. These are good ones. Things like the Coco and Alyssa situation, it's just one fight that happened, but their entire beef persisted the entire season, but I can't really put all of that. I wouldn't scroll away. Yeah, all of these make sense. No resolution. I feel like all three of these between these people, they all had like issues, but before they could really resolve anything, one of them left the competition, or like they left initial filming, you know what I mean? And then these last ones, they're just like very petty, or like ones that I just don't really like. It's nothing that really matters in the grand scheme of things. There's definitely more fights that I could have put on here. Season 15 has a lot of little petty arguments, but I think a lot of those would rank pretty low. As of recording this, I haven't seen the argument between Briar and Mia in the next episode for season 18, but I know that kind of happens. Daya and Alyssa had a fight on like All Stars 10 that really, I would put that on the bottom tier. I really did not care for that one. But these are the ones that I think people would mostly bring up, so I'm glad that I could talk about all of them here. That's about it for me today in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna have a video with my thoughts about season 18 out very soon. The ball ranking will happen sometime early February. Thanks to Aura again for sponsoring this video. Thank you to my tier 2 patrons and my tier 3 patrons who I would never try to fight: Frankie, Shira, and Steely. I'll see you soon with another video.